Hello and welcome to Dan Talks United. United. Anyway, it's just one United. Dan Talks United. Just here to talk about general news, transfers, the week ahead, the match today, Arsenal. What we're going to do, guys. Let's go. So, guys, my name is Dan. Yeah, awful accent from Yorkshire, but there's a lot of good things from Yorkshire. There's puddings, there's Yorkshire tea, there is York Minster. Anyway, you've now got me anyway. Scratch that. It's game day, guys. Welcome to Dan Talks United, episode 1. First one for you guys. Oh, shit. But anyway, let's go. So, what we're going to talk about today then, guys. Game day, as we were saying earlier. The Gunners, Manchester United versus Arsenal. Classics. Gyökeres versus Sesko. Who knows? Well, let's start off with talking about the transfer news. There isn't a lot to talk about, as we know, guys. We've had 3 major transfers. I know you could count Lyon as the 4th, but we'll talk about the 3. So, first through the door, we had Matheus Cunha. Looking at his stats from last season, 33 games, 15 goals, 6 assists. Quite pleased with that. He's going to be a number 10. If he could replicate any of that this season, would be really good. It's all about gelling with the team. We know what he did at Wolves. We know what he did against us, actually, scoring from a corner. Brazilian, class act. Generally, Brazilians can be class act away from Manchester United. I can't really think of a Brazilian that we've had so far that's been really good. Casemiro came in from Real Madrid. A lot of, I suppose, hype around him for all that he did at Real Madrid for so many years. Sort of panned out in that first season, but he is declining, unfortunately. We've got him at the wrong time. Next through the door, took a while, but Brian Mbeumo. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but Mbeumo. Again, similar level of games, had 38, so 5 more than Cunha over the last season. 20 goals and 7 assists, so a few more goals there. I think he's probably played a little bit more up front than Cunha at times for Brentford. Didn't really watch Brentford that much last season, if I'm honest. Generally just watch Manchester United. Just keep an eye on highlights more than anything. So again, another number 10 for us, hopefully. So Ruben, don't put him up front. So yeah, 20 goals, 7 assists. Again, not expecting him to replicate that at Manchester United. I just want him to, again, have that time to gel, understand. People talk about Premier League proven. I get all that. But he just needs that little bit of time just to gel in with the team, link up with Cunha, link up with Bruno, Sesko up front, hopefully, and whoever else is playing alongside him throughout the season. And then lastly, in terms of the main 3 signings, we've got Benjamin Sesko. Now, I'll be honest, guys, I want a Gyökeres. Gyökeres for obvious reasons. Played under Amorim before. Amorim's got the best out of him, turned into an absolute beast in the Portuguese league in terms of how many goals and assists and that sort of thing. Appreciate Portuguese league is not as good as the Premier League. Isn't possibly one of the top 5 leagues either. However, he scored goals. He scored goals against Premier League teams. Watched him in the Champions League score against Man City, for example. Score against Arsenal, I believe. Well, definitely played well against him anyway. Gave him something to think about. Does seem to be powerful striker, bit of speed there as well. Scores those ugly goals that I like to see as well at times. Whereas Benjamin Sesko, as I was saying earlier, yeah, in terms of his stats, similar games again to Cunha, I believe 33 as well, 13 goals, 5 assists. Again, that's not the sort of return you want for a main striker, number 9. So that has to greatly improve. Hasn't really got that track record like a Haaland had, for example. So obviously we've got that Bundesliga tax, everybody. But that Bundesliga tax, as we talk about, where a lot of players that have come from Bundesliga are struggling in the Premier League. But let's see what we've got here with Benjamin Sesko, hopefully. With that high ceiling, as people talk about, he's got the height, he's got the strengths, believe. He's got the speed for his size. He's got that stature. Um, so we'll see what he can do against these Premier League defenders. So, yeah, so I think that's enough on Sesko. We'll move on to the summer series. So, yeah, out there on tour in the US of A. Played a couple of good games, to be honest. Just before going into the USA, played against Leeds. I wasn't too impressed with that game, but they did play very well against West Ham and Bournemouth. So against West Ham, it was 2-1, I believe. Um, yeah, look to be starting to introduce some of the principles that Ruben Amorim is after. So that sort of high press starting to creep into a high line. It's all about those ball recoveries high up the pitch and just keeping that pressure on. So yeah, there was a bit of good interchange of play and what have you between players. Still needs a bit more work. But yeah, pleasantly surprised. Bournemouth was probably the biggest surprise, purely because last season, as we know, didn't do very well against Bournemouth. To be fair, didn't really do very well against many teams, if any teams, last season, really. But Bournemouth, full strength side, possibly wasn't up for it as much as we were, but we did show our intent. Going back to what I was saying about what Amrin's after, there were definitely good signs of that sort of high pressing, stifling the opposition. I do feel that we pinned them in their own half quite a bit. We did have control of the game. Again, with a lot of our games up to press, it's not being sustained. We're not sustaining attacks. We're not sustaining pressure. We're not sustaining possession very well. And yeah, it's just, this is one of my issues with our midfield. I didn't really want to talk about Believer because that was I wasn't a believer. It was a dream. We do hear about from like Fabrizio Romano saying that we may be in for him next year. I think that's going to be too late. It's going to be too late, that guys. I think there's going to be other teams that are going to be interested by then. I think teams like City, for example, if Rodri isn't going to come back the same Rodri that we used to, missed a lot of last season. So we'll just have to see what happens there. But currently with our midfield, isn't quite working. I don't think Amorim's quite getting the combinations right at the moment. There is that keeping Bruno, because as probably said, I love Bruno, but it's where do you play him? You've brought in two signings that have performed really well last season for their last clubs. They're going to hopefully, play in the number 10 positions. And it means that Bruno is going to drop back a bit and play in that sort of 8 position. Again, when he's playing with Casemiro, Casemiro was fantastic back at Real Madrid, but he is in decline. And I just think we're just getting exposed. Some of it is because of our lack of sustained possession in the opposition's half. And I think there's times where we're on the transition or we're building up play from the back and getting into good zones, and we were just sloppy with our passing, just absolutely sloppy with our passing. And it just means that the ball's getting turned over very quickly. And as we know, a lot of teams in the Premier League, even the lower sides, they've got good coaches, and those good coaches are instilling those fundamentals in regards to possession, in regards to passing, and they're managing to get a well-drilled team. And it's taking 6 months, less in some cases, and they're looking well-drilled. A lot of these teams, especially at the lower end, or surprisingly, should I say, at the lower end. And I just think when that's happening, you're then having what are going to be our number 10s are going to be out of position very quickly. And before you know it, that team is transitioning on us and we've got players out of position. And obviously there's a lot of sort of negativity around the 3-4-3, which is Amorim's favoured formation. Played it a lot, or played it throughout his time as a manager. More famously at Sporting. It worked at Sporting, even worked against Premier League teams when he's played in the Champions League. Thing is, it can work. It's just whether our players can operate it effectively. And a lot of times last season, we were seeing a back five, and I think that's wrongly interpreted as a back five. That is not Amarin's intention. Amarin's intention, it's a 3-4-3. It's three at the back, especially in attacking, when they're attacking, definitely. And I just think we just need to get to a point where we are sustaining attacks, we are sustaining possession, and it just allows us to do the system that Amarin's after. And I think we will see a difference if we can get to that point. It's just about the players clicking. And let's see if that one game a week is going to work, guys. Okay, so I'll really quickly finish off on the last game of that summer series, which is against Everton, and that's where your sort of confidence goes up against West Ham and Bournemouth. I appreciate you can't take pre-season overly serious because under Louis van Gaal, for example, he probably was unbeaten throughout the whole process, looked to play decent football, and as soon as the season started, yeah, we know what happened there. So yeah, not overly going to be gassed about pre-season as much as it was enjoyable to see them play some form of Amarin ball against West Ham and Bournemouth. I think it's yet to be seen, obviously, for this season. So against Everton was a little bit boring, if I'm honest with you. 2-2. Yeah, it wasn't the best game in the world. I think the players were tired, were a bit lethargic, were sort of looking forward to coming back to the UK, I believe. So let's just hope that was just a one-off. Right then, so I think we should get into some predictions for the season, guys. So I've done a ranking from 1 to 7. So I'll start off with 1. So in 1, or number 1 position, or top of the league, difficult one because obviously Liverpool played very well last season. They've strengthened very well so far. As we all know, they're after Isak as well. Could be game over if they get Isak, potentially. Didn't watch the game yesterday, but they started off with a good win. Although I was hoping for at least a draw. But Liverpool do Liverpool things. Also, it's hope because I don't want 21 to be coming for Liverpool because it definitely isn't coming for us. But a lot of people are writing them off. I'm actually going to go for Mr. Scratch's head, Mr. Scratch's face, Pep and City. A lot of it's going to depend on what happens with Rodri, to be honest. I think if Rodri comes back, because I believe he's injured again, if Rodri comes back, I think with the signings they've made as well and the fact it's Pep, I think he may come back into this. So, second, I think that's quite easy because I was close to putting them first. It's Liverpool. And as I was saying earlier, made some really good signings. Ekitike is looking all right. Shouldn't say all right. He's looking pretty good, to be fair. And they've made some good signings from the Premier League, such as Kirkes, for example. Frimpong's looking pretty good too. Let's see if Arne Slot can do it again. Liverpool have barely won the Premier League, to be honest, and let's see if they can actually do a back-to-back for once. Hopefully not, because that means that's 21 and we're on 20. Not good times. In 3 then, Arsenal. Now, a lot of people would have thought Arsenal would win the league because all they needed was a striker. They've got the striker. They've got Gyökeres. I still don't believe that Arteta's got it in him to get him across the line. Unfortunately, Arsenal fans, I know you won't listen to me, but it's just my opinion. 4th then, Chelsea. Again, Chelsea have done well. They've done well. They've won the World Club Cup. They looked really good against PSG. Although PSG did look quite tired, I think they're a bit burnt out, PSG, from all the winning that they've been doing recently. However, taking nothing away from Chelsea, looking very good with Pedro, for example. Glad they got Delap because I didn't want him. And generally speaking, they've made some really good signings. So I think looking good for 4th. Yeah. So going on to 5th spot then. Again, this was a little bit like the first spot where it was a bit of a close one between two teams, but I have gone for Newcastle, surprisingly. I understand that Newcastle haven't had the best transfer window. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, they've been bantered by a lot of the teams in the Premier League this season, especially Liverpool and ourselves. Benjamin Sesko, I mean, yeah. But having said that, they have got a good team, got a decent coach in Eddie Howe. I have my reservations still. I don't know whether it's just because he's English, but um, to be fair to Eddie Howe, he's got a good team there. He's coached them well. Some good players that have remained at the club. It's just getting players in, isn't it? Isak wanting to leave. What's going to happen there? I think if Isak goes, that's going to really hurt them. He's their talisman. He's scored a lot of goals last season. I think they just need to get him gone to Liverpool as much as I wouldn't want to see that. But I just think due to stability of the club in terms of the players, other than Isak, and the fact that they've got a way of playing, they're hard to beat, got a decent home record, for example. Did have a lot of losses over the season last season. Obviously, we had way more, but I just think it's going to be more of the same from Newcastle. So in with 6 is Spursy or Spursy. Unfortunately, they weren't Spursy against us in the Europa League final, but there was Spursy again against PSG. That's more like it from Spurs, that I think. But joking aside, I've put Spurs in there purely because of the Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank coming in, I think is going to make them more conservative. I think he's going to bring some of that principles he got from Brentford, but with better players. They've managed to retain, although Son's gone. Son was declining, to be honest, not the Son that played with Harry Kane. However, they've retained the rest of the team. They've brought in Kudos, who was really good at West Ham last season. I know they're looking at Eze. So if Eze comes in, that could improve them further still. Not sure about the striker situation, Richard Arlison, whatever you want to call him. Doesn't really score. However, Solanke got a goal in him. I'm not sure what his record was last season, but it's all about getting him firing if they are going to get that sixth spot. They are in the Champions League as well, as we just they keep going on about. It's just a shame that us at United have given that Spursy banter club a cup after how many years of not having a cup. It had to be us that gifted him a cup, wouldn't it? But anyway, I've put Spurs in at 6. It's the Thomas Frank factor. Let's see if that happens. So I think that makes it obvious that we're number 7th, guys. Now, some of that is because we finished 15th. Now, I appreciate that Spurs finished 17th, but I just think that they've got a new coach in Thomas Frank. I think there will be a factor in terms of how they play. They won't be as open as they were under Big Ange. And I think Thomas Frank is adaptable. So I think that's possibly why they'll do okay this season. For us, though, in 7th, I think, like I say, it's more to do with where we finished last season. It's a hell of a jump to go from 15th to 7th or higher. I hope the players prove me wrong, but as it stands, I just think our window hasn't been as good as it needed to be. Now, I appreciate the 3 players that have come in. I really like 2 of them Premier League proven, if that's a thing. And I do expect things from them. It's just Benjamin Sesko, I'll be honest, it wasn't my first pick. Probably Gyökeres was my first pick, just purely down to goals, really. But going on to Sesko, I am happy with the signing. I think it's the best of what was left. I know that doesn't sound good, but as people say, though, high ceiling, as they say, it's only 22. Problem for me though is, as I was saying earlier, is Gyökeres scores those ugly goals. He's got a bit more variation in his goals, and he's got that track record behind him in terms of the levels of goals he was scoring, unbelievable levels. Whereas Sesko hasn't really had a season like that, so he's not like a Haaland who has just scored goals wherever he's been. Sesko, again, his scoring worldies. He's scoring from positions that you probably wouldn't record as an expected goal because it's that far out or it's on such an angle. And yeah, I just not sure. However, as I was saying earlier, he's got the physique, he's got that ability or that potential to do what Højlund can't do, which is when we are doing our build up from the back in true Amorim style, and it's going to the centre back, it's going across the line, it's then being spread out to the wing backs that we hope are going to be bombing on and keeping wide, which is a Dorgu, for example, or Ahmad. If that doesn't work, and that build up doesn't work for that phase of play, then okay, people call it going long, direct, whatever words you want to use. A lot of teams use it. Let's not be embarrassed. With Onana, should I talk about Onana? Anyway, Onana's got that option to go long with Sesko, I believe. So Sesko could get it off the chest. He could knock it on with his head. It gives that opportunity just to hold on to the ball and fend off a defender, which currently with Højlund is just wrestling with defenders. And it's not good enough. He's losing the ball in that sense. And it just means that we're getting transitioned on. I think if Sesko can get it under his spell, get it under his control, and just give the chance for Cunha and Mbeumo just to play off him 1-2s or run in behind, run beyond, it just gives them the chance to do what they've been doing for their past clubs and feed him with the goals. Get into that box as well, because I think Sesko, you would imagine, is good in the air with his height, and Boomer's good with his crossing. I just want to see more variation up front and just want that ball to stick so that we can actually start to get some territory, get some possession, see the transitions between each player and interchangeability, should I say. I want to see Ahmad go wide and give some options to Mbeumo. I want Mbeumo to have the option to either cut inside onto his left or pass it out wide to Ahmad, waiting for the return ball, 1-2, or whether it be a cross. I want Cunha to be doing the same. I want Cunha to pick up the ball and drive. I want him to have an option in Sesko in front of him where he can bounce it off Sesko and go again and pass it back into Sesko and get those ugly goals, those goals where it's across the box and it's a tap in. Don't get me wrong, I want to see some pile drivers from Sesko because he's got a wand of a foot, but I do want to see a variation in our play, a variation in our attack. I want it to speed up a bit as well. So I appreciate that Amorim will want steady possession, steady play from the back line through the thirds, players getting into space, finding space, that interchangeability, as we were saying earlier. But I do want it just to speed up a little bit, just to catch the opposition off guard a little bit. I want them to think. I don't want them to be set and just waiting for us to come on to them. So yeah, that's the hopes for the season in regards to that and positioning. So just to finish off, guys, game today. Yeah, Manchester United versus Arsenal. Not my first pick, purely because Arsenal being a good team, Gyökeres being ahead of Sesko, so I do believe Amorim's probably going to spoil the hype, by the way. So you're probably not going to see that Gyökeres versus Sesko today. I wouldn't imagine. I think he'd probably do something daft like put Cunha up front or put even worse than that, put Mount up front. And we'll probably see Sesko in the second half, maybe. However, if Sesko's fit and firing, that'd be good. In regards to a scoreline, If I'm really honest, I think although it's first game, Old Trafford, in the sunshine, Arsenal haven't always started well. However, my hopes quickly faded as I think that one of either their last or couple of games towards the end of pre-season, they've looked better and Gyökeres has got his first goal. I'm going to go with 2-1 Arsenal, unfortunately. I can't do the fake positivity. I am positive. I think we can play well and potentially hurt Arsenal, but I just think Arsenal are going to get that win, unfortunately. However, guys, prove me wrong. Sesko, start, up for it. Links in with Cunha and Boomer. Bruno, disciplined, passes when he needs to pass, threads the ball through the lines. Let's see. But that's it for today, guys. Hopefully I'll have another video where I do a bit of a match reaction after Arsenal. Hopefully it's a win. Hopefully it's a positive reaction show that I do later on, but let's see, guys. But again, thank you for watching Dan Talks United, episode 1. Come again, guys. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. I'll see you again soon.